Hey guys, welcome back to Vince Bell Custom. So today I'm sharing with you a Rogue custom statue made from a 3D print. Now, this is a Punk Storm Rogue from Yanh Sculpts, and this is basically the 3D print from that. And then what I did is I customized it into, I guess, what you could call like retro Rogue, first appearance Rogue. I think that's kind of the thing. Hair is a little bit different from that, but we'll kind of go over all that stuff anyway. So this is the Rogue statue, and this is the way things are starting to evolve, and that's kind of why I like the 3D printing now, is because the client I've done a lot of work for, I've done a lot of like the old school type stuff for him, and he wants to finish in his collection. He contacted me and he said, you know, I really want to get this first appearance type Rogue. I'm looking at the Bowen design stuff, and you know, there's this Rogue, and I'm like, you already have those in your collection, and they're kind of very expensive because they've kind of gone up in price a little bit. And then I told him, I said, well, you have to buy the item on eBay, then you got to pay the tax, and then you got to pay for shipping to me. And then I have to customize it, strip it down, chop it up, and go with the custom. So I said, you know, why don't we look at 3D printing, because it's a little bit more cost friendly. You can get a sculpt that might be nude and or close to the character and pose you like, and then we don't have to print out all the elements. So say this item was, I don't know, say it was like Dark Phoenix, right? And she has a big bird behind her, she has a elaborate base. But if the figure is basic, you don't need to print out all those other elements, and you can save on the cost of printing. So that's what I explained to him. I said, you know, this Punk Rogue has the head, you know, with the mohawk, it's got these belts and all this other stuff, but there's like a nude version where her top is showing, and then we don't have to print all those elements off of it, so it kind of starts to cut down the price a little bit. So after he saw that, he was like, yeah, but he's like, I don't like the head. I said, well, I got a lot of 3D, prints, files and stuff. And I said, what we could do is we could swap out the head. So I showed him a bunch of files, and he liked this head, and I forgot which head this was too. I don't remember now. But he liked this head a lot, and he said, that's the one I would like on it. I said, yeah, so I took that file, and I sent it to the guy in New Jersey that I know, because he had to print out some other stuff for me. He printed out this item, and he basically took the head off of the Rogue statue that came with it, and he put this head on there, and he scaled it, and then from there I sculpted the hair and the outfit and all that stuff. So it worked out perfect, and like I said, this is really what's kind of fun about the customizing with 3D sculpts now. You really open up a lot of options to kind of fill in your collection with characters and not use the same sculpt over and over. And then let's face it, a lot of the Bowen designs, some of the Sideshow, and even the Prime 1, a lot of stuff on the secondary market has gone up a lot. So it gets kind of expensive. But, you know, if you can cut down the cost as much as possible for getting the item and then having me commissioning me, it helps a lot with everything. So it worked out pretty well. Now, the one thing about Yanh Sculpt on this is when we got the Rogue in and I started working on it, we realized that it's kind of hard to see it on the file on the screen, but he gave her a huge booty and childbearing hips. Like, the hips really went out far, and he really wasn't, like, feeling the sculpt that much. I said, you know what? I said, there's a lot of meat there, but we can tone that down. You know, I could get in there and I could grind all that down, and it can actually work better. And what I did was I got my Dremel tool and I grinded down a lot here. I grinded down a lot over in here. I didn't take the booty like that comes out this way more, but I took the booty around these hips. It's mostly like the hip areas. So she does sort of have a little bit bigger hips and a booty, but it works better now compared to what it was in the beginning. And I really like this sculpt and the way this turned out. I really just kind of like the way the outfit worked on this. I like the pose. I like the wrinkles. It just worked out well. It's just one of those items that as I'm working on it, I like it more and more. Because I really like the Yanh sculpt on this punk Rogue. I really liked it, but now that I realized that the booty was a little too big, if I was to ever get it for myself, because I thought about maybe down the line printing a 1/4 scale for a custom, I would have to take the booty down a lot. One thing though I didn't like about the base is that sadly it's very off. You can't really tell from here, but the X is kind of off. Let me kind of, you know, it's like you can see it, like see how the X isn't lining up. You see how like the line isn't lining up too well. I wish it was more of a perfect X, but for some odd reason it's just not lined up correctly. And I didn't realize that until after, like, I sanded it down and I started masking it. I started realizing, like, wait, what the hell's going on with this thing? So I had to fix it. I also had to tweak her feet a little bit, too. What happened was, when I put the kit together, I don't know if there was any kind of warping or stuff, but this foot was kind of stepping upwards, and this one wasn't working too well. And I had to fill in these little triangle areas because they were sunk in. And I think maybe they did that to have the foot kind of like stepping on this high part. I kind of tweaked it a bit. So I think when I put this rod in here, I Dremel out the ankle area and I retweaked the feet and I bent it a little bit to kind of work with the sculpt, and it kind of worked out. So that's kind of like, you know, going to be like typical going down the line with 3D prints, because sometimes stuff could get warped, sometimes stuff doesn't line up correctly, but all in all, it worked. And from there, he wanted to take down the chest a little bit. It was a little too big, so we took down the chest. We took off the nipples off the chest too as well. We gave it more of like a tighter, like, not like a leathery suit. It's kind of like a leathery suit on her. I sculpted the hood and all the other elements, the gloves and the boots and all that. Now, the hair is a little bit different, and the hair was based off of a different type of artwork. So I thought I was going to follow that one first appearance he sent me, but then he said he wanted it from this style, and I forgot the artist's name. I don't have the email and everything in front of me, but he kind of wanted to sort of follow this type of hair on it, and I said, okay, not a problem. So I kind of sculpted the hair like that. Pretty straightforward. It's a very simple, old-school type of a look. And then I just pretty much painted it up, you know, kind of gave her some nice skin tone, some, you know, dark eyeshadow, lips and everything. For her outfit, it's kind of hard to see in the camera probably, but this is a basic green, and then we have a lighter shade of green. And then the gloves and the boots is actually textured with dark green and light green, and then to sort of just break it up. So the gloves are supposed to be like, and the boots are supposed to be like a leathery type green, where the outfit is kind of like flat. Now it may look a little bit shiny, but like, once again, that's my light, and there's a very slight hint of pearl green in there, and that's kind of what the lights are grabbing. But without all these lights on it, like for the photography, it's not as bad. I might have to go down and just give it a little bit of a flat coat one more time before I ship it out, but all in all, it worked out pretty good. I think the only thing about this project is the base. I just think the X base is just off. And even it's off just because it's not lined up with an X, and it's not like your typical Sideshow X base, so I think that was the only downside of it. And I think maybe they did that to have the feet sort of walking through, but it's okay. I mean, if I was ever to do it again, or if we do any more stuff for this guy and he wants X bases, we could find a different one or something, but I think it works out fine. And I think the X, and I think everything is just great about it. She's walking, it's got a nice pose, and it looks like Rogue. So that is pretty much the Rogue Custom. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back with some more videos.